Hey, you want to talk about another guy I defended? That is our next segment, I believe. Mr. Louis C.K. Louis was Me Too'd back in 2017. And then in his first two comedy specials back, Sincerely and Sorry, he addresses like being canceled, but in not in too deep of terms. I think people thought at some point when he came back, he would do Rogan or one of these podcasts where he gets more into it, because Louis had a pretty unique experience where I don't believe what he did was by any means illegal, and he had a part of the world calling him a rapist. And that's a pretty strange place to be, and I've been curious to hear his perspective about it for a long time. And like I said, in both his specials, he makes jokes about it. Obviously, sorry. What's funny about it is he has the word "sorry" in gigantic letters behind him, and people couldn't accept that as an apology. they got angry about that. But Louis finally got in depth about it on Theo Vaughn's podcast. It's about an hour and a half in. If you want to go check out Theo's latest episode, they get into it for like 45, 50 minutes, I think. And I thought it was really good and interesting. We have some of the basic clips to kind of give you the gist that I wanted to go through. So this is Theo, and credit to Theo for bringing it up. I've wondered, because Louis has done a bunch of podcasts, including like Rogan, Schultz, guys that you would think would ask that. I've always wondered, does Louis say, like, I really don't want to get into it? Is it a thing that they know going in? Like, are there ground rules set? Whatever. But either Louis lifted whatever those rules might have been, or just no one had asked him before, and Louis gets pretty deep into it.
It's called Accusations, this first one.
Yeah, so this is them talking about just the basics of what happened in 2017.
Oh, because you'd been through like a lot of like stuff in your career. You'd had like, this is when things had gotten kind of crazy in your career with accusations and all types of stuff, and accurate accusations,
and
whatever they were. But you said, man, I feel so free. And there was something about that to me. I think about that once a week. Yeah. Because I think about just like the little pieces of ourselves that we like, that we try to manage and operate, and we don't even know what they are, and we don't even know why they're in pieces. Yeah. It's like trying to put some glass together so you can get a clear reflection of yourself. Huh. And it's just like, fuck, I didn't even break this.
I always love Theo's folksy witticisms, but this is one I really wanted to hit, so I was kind of like, shut the fuck up, Theo. Let him get to it. I don't care if this is like when you saw a beaver chewing through a piece of wood on a summer day. Just get to it. Let Louis talk.
So tired of cutting my fucking fingers trying to get a look at myself.
Yeah.
You're
trying to piece together that broken mirror and cutting your fingers. That's beautiful. It's true. And when life fucks it up for you, when it gets torn up, it's a relief. That's why I felt free,
Yeah.
Because I had tried to manage these problems I had inside of me for so many years, and I tried to feel like I was like a normal person.
Yeah.
Or that I was like what I thought of as a good person, but I was doing shit in the background of my life that I was ashamed of. I was hurting other people and trying to tell myself I wasn't. And those things on the edge, like using another person, but you got their permission first. You're still using another person. You're not being with them. You're using them.
Right.
That was interesting to hear him say, because the argument for a long time, the argument that I made a lot and still stand by the way, is people were trying to, like I said, lump Louis in with rapists. They were trying to call him like a someone who committed sexual assault. And that is not what Louis was ever even accused of. Now, there are people that were like, he locked the door. That also wasn't true, or blocked the door. He was not accused of that. Find me the accusation where it said they wanted to leave and he didn't allow it. It doesn't exist. Believe me, I talked about it a lot. And what's interesting about Louis' response, and why I think I've always thought he's a genius, but like why I think his approach to responding to this was so brilliant is he waited till he had real thoughts about it and insight into it, and he doesn't address the people that were falsely accusing him of anything. He addresses just the women that made accusations. And he goes, hey, you talk about this thing where I asked permission, but I was still hurting them. And that's all. That's what he addresses. He doesn't address the exaggeration that came around that from third parties, which I think is really smart.
It took me a long time to learn about that stuff. But when you're doing that stuff and creating more and more problems, they just keep getting bigger and bigger. And then the worst thing is if you're having a good life that's like successful because you're feeling this like incredible rift between like the way you're representing yourself and who you really are. And it's getting really, and I used to try, I think some of the early versions of talking on stage really honestly were me trying to get out and say, I'm corrupt. I want everybody to know it.
Right, I'm a corrupt file.
Yeah, and a corrupt file, yeah.
Yeah, so like I think you hear that, and it made me think of Mulaney too, where Mulaney has jokes about being a blackout drunk, about lying for drugs, and yet when he went to rehab, there were a lot of people that were like, what? And even I believed he was sober. Like, I was surprised by it. But it's interesting, like these artists are telling you things and you don't even realize it, where like when Louis got canceled, a lot of people would play clips of him talking about being a pervert and be like, see, he's admitting it. And Louis, in kind of a different way, is like, yeah, I was kind of trying to talk about it and tell you who I was, that like I am a pervert. But he wasn't committing illegal act. That's why it's interesting. Like, people pounce. It reminds me a little of the segment we just did about Kimmel, where people want to pounce on everything.
How
It's
was
always
what he did not sexual misconduct or not illegal?
Say again?
How was what he did not sexual misconduct or not illegal?
He asked permission.
Yes,
He
said,
didn't
hey.
always ask, did he?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the thing. He asked, and he put them in an uncomfortable position, which is like not a crime.
Right, and that's
it's
what he's
just
talking about by hurting
bad.
people, because I think one of the girls worked on the Chris Rock show where he was the head writer. So that's where you can get into, he put them in an uncomfortable position, or he was wrong and this and that. But like, he's never been accused of anything illegal.
No, it's just weird, not illegal.
Yeah. And like, yeah, that's what I've always said, is like, if you want to call Louis a creep, he's admitting that here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a big difference between lumping him in with Harvey Weinstein or any of these
Right.
other people. Bill Cosby.
If plants could sue, though, he'd be in
Sure.
trouble. Yeah. The next one's called Hurting People.
Yeah, so this is more of kind of what we were just talking about.
So when you're succeeding, you believe it's a perfect good. Everything you're getting is important, right? You're getting stature, you're getting work, you're getting money, importance. People are saying good things about you. These things, you just believe that after a while you need those things. Anyway, when life comes along and just fucking, by the grace of my own fucking mistakes, my own fuck-ups, they all came back and took everything away from me. And it was the thing I was most afraid of in the whole world. And it happened. The scariest possible thing. And it happened. Like, now people know about me. They like deeply know, and not perfectly either. Like, there's, you know what I mean? Because it's fantastical fame world. So they hear their own version, and I'm sitting there going like, wait, no, it's not quite like that. And all that. It's like the worst thing that could happen happens.
Yeah.
That's the
And
interesting thing about him waiting so long to me. And I, as a guy that like was a fan of Louis, you kind of want him to get out in front and be like, no, address this. But it's probably smart of him to wait and gain some perspective on it. But like, I imagine the instinct when you're in that situation would be to even like start tweeting, like however you can immediately respond, be like, well, this isn't true. But then you put yourself in this weird position of being like, well, so this part is true, and you're like, you twist yourself into this war of words, and people are so angry. And that was a time also, and like where Electra just said like, well, no, but he asked permission every time, because if you hear this story peripherally, your thought would be like, oh, he's guilty of something. You know what I mean? Like, you hear people talking about it so passionately that you're like, well, he must have done something criminally wrong, because I'm hearing the news talk about it in this certain way. And what was ugly about this time in this country, and what I worry about seeing it pop up again when we kind of thought it was dying down a little bit, is the thirst for blood with your enemies, with people you don't like, or people whose careers you want to ruin or lives you want to ruin. Just the thirst for that, the wanting to do that, and shifting your argument no matter how it suits you. No matter how wrong it might be. And like, you don't really think of that, how that affects people. And that's why hearing Louis talk about this is so interesting, because Norm Macdonald said before he died, a thing that Norm like got in trouble for, and it almost ruined his shot at a Netflix show, was saying publicly, he's like, yeah, I put Roseanne and Louis C.K. in touch because they kind of have really unique experiences. No one has ever gone through what they've gone through. And so, like Louis doesn't have a lot of people he can share that experience with. Which is correct. Like, I think about this with being blind. I went to a program for the blind about 5 years ago, and it was the first time I didn't realize how much I needed to be able to bitch about my problems to someone that understands them. You know what I mean? It's like having a shitty job where, like, you go home and your wife will empathize with you. She doesn't really understand the inner workings of your office or whatever. Someone at your job will get why the boss is an asshole because he has to deal with them. What Norm was basically saying is, Roseanne and Louis both went through a thing that, like, very few people know about, so I kind of put them in touch with each other. People gave Norm shit for that. And we're like, fuck you, you're acting like they're the victims here, which isn't even really what Norm was doing. But it's interesting, like, we never want to hear people's side because we villainize them so quickly. And I remember even Jen Kirkman, one of the women who accused Louis of this stuff, was on Chris Hardwick's podcast. And it's interesting because she even talks about it like, people are leaping to like what I want to be done to Louis or how I'm perceived. Like, they're going too far. That's not how I'm even reacting to it. Like, they're angrier for me than I am for my own situation, So it's a weird instinct in people where they're thirsty for blood rather than hearing people out in any direction.
Well, it's hard because the way he asked for consent, they were kind of cornered, and so that they didn't really give like a true consent. They were kind of coerced.
I mean, I guess I'd have to look back at a lot of the accusations. A lot of them were Louis saying like, "Hey, do you want to go back to my hotel room?" and them going back to the hotel. Like, it doesn't seem to me like he was literally like cornering them in an alley. Right. But I do think, to your point, that's what he's kind of talking about here, where he's like, maybe I was probably wrong in a lot of these situations, which is totally fine. My issue with a lot of this stuff is like, let Louis come to the conclusion that he's wrong, like he did. I don't know that he had to get there by taking everything away from him. I don't know that people had to be like, he's a villain, he shouldn't work in society, protest his gigs, get his shows taken down. I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to get people to see, like, maybe they did something wrong.
Right. Louis was wrong at the worst time in history to be wrong in what he was doing, because he. Well,
you know what's weird about that too is that the stuff in the New York Times piece about Louis was out there for a long time.
Right.
And I remember hearing the allegations and going like, oh boy, I hope there's like nothing like worse than that. And they never found anything worse than that, but it just came to a time where it's like, and him too. He's like Cosby and Weinstein and all these other, Kevin Spacey, all these other people, Yeah,
it was bad. It was not good what he did, but it definitely, like, because of the time they were in, it got wrapped up with some other stuff, and he just got swept away. Right. It was like, bye, Louis.
So it's interesting to hear him. It reminds me in a very different way, obviously, but like with Shane, where he didn't rush to be like, fuck these people. I didn't do nothing. He didn't rush to tell the world he didn't do anything wrong. He took his time, thought about it, put in little things in his comedy and stuff, but never really. And then when he finally addressed it, had a full, well thought out response, which is very interesting.
Reminds me of the Chris Rock slap. You know how everyone wanted him to immediately do comedy on it, and he was like, "No, I'm gonna wait." And it took him like a year and a half, 2 years before he did anything. Everyone was bored.
And then he fucked up that joke on the live version.
That's so brutal.
Lose everything you were working for, and the people you hurt, everybody knows about it now, and also people who love you are hurt by it. I hurt a lot of people who love me. By mismanaging that and letting and willfully becoming big enough as a famous person that the downfall hurt a lot of people, people I love. So it was like unbearable.
Fuck.
That was the thing. Like I imagine he's talking about. He has daughters. I imagine that's who he's talking about, or at least a part of who he's talking about. And that's the thing I always think of this stuff is like, no one thinks of how it affects their lives. Again, if Louis was doing something illegal, then fuck him. Like, bring him through the court system, whatever. But if it's something where there's like nuance to it, do we need to pounce to be like, ruin this guy's life? You know, like people never really think of the consequences of that, of labeling someone with this harsh thing when none of us really know that. By the way, like me defending Louis, I don't know all the facts. You don't know all the facts. Electra, none of us were there. None of us know other than Louis and the girls making the accusations. So it's weird that we all get so passionate and want to have takes on this when none of us fucking know, you know? That's what I was talking about with Bill Maher and Woody Allen, where Woody Allen had some perspective on it, and Bill Maher was going, don't you want to be fucking pissed? And it's like, why is Bill Maher angrier than the guy that knows what happened?
Next one here is called Good Thing.
So like his takeaway from it was like for his life, getting canceled was ultimately a good thing because it made him reflect on stuff.
And all of a sudden I had nobody likes me. Everybody, you know, I can't talk to nobody. Everybody's afraid of me. And I was just spinning. It was really wild. But now I look at that thing as like a beautiful thing. It's like, I look at that as like God's hands, you know, or whatever you want to call it. That was just like a good, caring thing that said, dude, you need to stop.
Yeah.
you
got to be detached.
You need to stop. You need out of all this. And that's, for me, it was great. Not for other people in my life. Some people, it was hard for them.
Oh, yeah, I can certainly imagine.
Yeah, and he starts talking about how he was like a sex addict and like basically a pervert, and it was affecting his life really deeply, which is interesting to hear. Again, like in all these cases, you have like, you know, Bill Cosby would silence people on it. Kevin Spacey pleads, and you never have someone go like, yeah, what I was accused of, there's a lot of truth to it. Or just it is true. Whatever like Louis is saying here, basically. It's interesting because he's talking about the actual accusations rather than the public perception of him, which is so much worse, you know?
It's addressing the core issue, Mike.
Yeah.
This one's called Victim.
Okay, let's hear it.
But I realized I need to start making a real treasure chest that has shit in it.
That's valuable.
I need to stop thinking about why did these people turn their backs on me and ask myself, yeah, why did they? Like, were you a good friend to them? Who are you useful to in this world? Like, that's where I started, was when I wanted to try to reach out and feel less isolated, was who can I be of use to? And I started to try to, but what was easy to let go of was like fame, money, and connection and red carpets. That was easy. That was easy. I don't want that back.
Yeah. Oh, it seems like a fucking nightmare.
It's shit. It's nothing. Work is different, and what we do is public. So it's like the hard thing was like, I wished I was a carpenter. I could just start making chairs again. I love stand-up comedy. I love it. It's my life. I love it so much, and it's given me so much. And the other thing that happened too was that when a hard thing that happens to you that feels like an all-encompassing thing, when you live with it every day, you go to sleep going, I can't do this. I went to sleep many nights going, my days are numbered. I just can't handle this. This is more than I can handle. But then I wake up the next day and I go, all right, I'm still here. It's still here. It's like a siren's blaring and it's not stopping. And at some point you just got to make coffee and talk a little louder or whatever you got to, you know. It was like, all right, this is life now.
Yeah.
And I started to have to look at it and go like, well, everybody doesn't hate me. It's just not true.
No.
And there's people that love me and they're reaching out to me. And I should take their hand. I shouldn't just sit there and be a little victim, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting because Lou is getting so famous. And I remember he sent an email out to his mailing list. I think I'm getting this right, where he was like, you should vote for Hillary Clinton because she's a mother. And I was kind of like, what's happening here? And then like he wore a suit in his special and he was wearing the like designer glasses and everything. And it seemed like maybe we were like losing Louis to Hollywood a little bit. And so it's interesting to hear him talk about how like I was getting a little crazy. Like I was, you know, like I was smelling my own shit and thinking I could do no wrong. And in a weird way, this like brought him back to reality, which I think is pretty interesting.
He almost joined the Tom Segura watch gang, Mike.
I did, yeah. We could have been making fun of Louis, which would have been very sad. That would have been tough.
Tough. That would
I don't know
hard.
if Louis was shopping at Teddy Baldassari's watch shop. I don't know that I would ever talk about it. It'd be tough for me to deal with.
Next one here is called Starting Over.
So this is like his process, kind of. He took a lot of time off and then had to start over, basically.
So I started working again. And then it was really hard because I lost a lot of friends for starting again. And
that's crazy to me.
I used to react to all of this with a lot of anger and confusion, but I started to do psychedelic drug therapy.
And I think the idea of Louis on mushrooms is very funny to me. The idea
it is.
That's how he solved his mental anguish over this.
It
Works
really
for a
couldn't
lot
have
of
happened.
people.
Yeah, it couldn't have happened to like it's terrible what he did, but if you want your comedians with like interesting stories and thoughts, this is a great season of Louis coming up, you know?
It's interesting too to hear him talk about like this because it's like I don't know. It's an interesting spin on it that he has as someone that was like, I don't really know that he did anything wrong if he asked for consent. So it's interesting for me to hear him
telling
be
us
like,
he did
right,
things wrong.
yeah, like that's very interesting.
Everyone was acting in their own needs and everyone is doing what they need to do. And life is really hard for everybody. It's really hard. And these times have been really hard for everybody. The thing that ripped my life in half had been ripping lives around all over the world. And everybody was dealing, and some people were so scared that what happened to me would happen to them. And, you know, there was a lot of stuff going on. So I had to see that.
Right.
And, but I also saw that a lot of people that now knew about me were like, what do you got? And I thought, I'm willing, and I was getting shit for trying again, but I'm like, that's okay. It's okay. My rule with that whole thing now is I don't take part in it and I don't interfere with it. There's a thing about me, I became a symbol for something, which is on me because I made 1 trillion carbon copies of myself and threw them out of a helicopter and said, think whatever you want about me. So
I wonder how much advice, because the first podcast Louis did when he came back was Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast, The Presidents, which is a great series. I fall asleep to it sometimes. It's very soothing. But Louis kind of took Shane under his wing for a little while during that time. I wonder how much advice Louis gave Shane, because when I'm hearing, I just said in the last segment, I hold Shane up as the model example for how to deal with getting canceled. When hearing Louis talk, I wonder how much of that came from Louis, because this is fascinating perspective to me to be like, hey, whatever I represent to people, the people that think I'm a rapist or whatever you think of me, he's like, that's on me for making the mistakes that I've made. I let it get to a point where people could think that of me. So he's like, that's kind of on me, but also the ability to not get involved with it. Because like for those that don't remember, when Louis started to come back, people were recording his sets and they released a joke about Parkland that he made. That's a very funny joke. It's in his special Sincerely. And people like Judd Apatow rushed to condemn him for it. Because it became very popular. No matter, like Mark Maron disowned him. All these people immediately disowned him. They don't have any fucking idea what happened. Like they didn't talk to him about it, but they rushed to publicly disown him to gain points for themselves. So people would go, "Now that's a good person. Judd Apatow's a good person because he condemned Louis C.K." And to me, it would be so tempting to just get on Twitter or Instagram or whatever and be like, fuck Judd Apatow. Who the fuck does he think he is? And for Louis to say, like, I just don't get involved in it. Like, I represent these things to these people, and it is what it is. I can't control it.
It's a really good perspective. Holy shit. We all make mistakes, and so to own up to it in such a
I was impressed by
way.
whatever you think of Louis. If you think I'm too soft on him or not, whatever, I would recommend listening to the full. Like I said, it starts about an hour 31 in to Theo's latest episode. From there on, they pretty much talk about it, close to an hour. I recommend listening to the whole thing because it's the most interesting perspective I've heard anyone that's gone through this discuss.
What did they talk about for the first hour and a half? Like, this is deep stuff. What are they talking about?
Comedy, Louis' book. Yeah.
Okay. Selling. They were selling for the first time.
Yeah.
People started to think bad things about me. That's how they use this image. And I can't go around the world and fix that. I can't make people that are mad at me not mad at me anymore. I can't
He's playing the victim here. He's acting like a victim.
Uh-oh.
They're mad at me. Oh, well, you sort of asked for consent, but you didn't wait for them to say yes or no. You just took your dick out while they were sitting there stunned.
That's not. Do you know that that's true?
Yeah.
How?
I just looked it up and looked at the court.
I guess, hold on, Electra. My thing is that, so a mistake was made. Whatever that mistake was, right?
But it's
years
consent
ago.
If you don't wait for them to say yes or no, you just proceed with what you're going to do anyway.
But what are you reading that's saying he didn't wait for consent?
The New York Times investigation from November 2017.
What does it say? You seem mad at me. I don't know. I'm actually asking.
I'm not mad. I just got a little bit worked up there. No, it's just that he asked, "Can I take my dick out?"
Right.
They thought he was joking and were like sitting there laughing nervously. And before they could say yes or no, he took his dick out and took all his clothes off. And
so here's where
started
my perspective on this as a guy. If they're like
they never
laughing,
said yes.
I get where that can be a gray area.
Consent is a difficult conversation to have. Yes, I get where that can
particularly
be a gray
before
area as well.
2017, where if you're in a hotel room and you're laughing, a guy's like, "Can I take my dick out?" and you're like, "Hee hee hee." I get where that can be confusing for both sides.
Yes, I do too.
I do. That. Hold on.
But
and the one time where the lady said absolutely not, he didn't do it. So he did stop in that case.
But right. That's always been my point about Louis, and it's why I thought that as I was listening to this, I was like, if people just hear this clip, I can see them thinking he's trying to play the victim. I think if you listen to the full context, I don't know that that's really true. I get what you're saying totally. But I guess, it seems to me like he has tremendous perspective on the entire thing. And also, I don't know what he's done privately with these women. If he
Electra, can I ask real quick, Electra?
Was it awful to them or vice versa?
Yeah.
Right.
Electra, so this happened many years ago. Like, is he never supposed to, like, be forgiven or never supposed to have another chance? I'm just confused. Like, so he did these things, right? So now what? He's looked at himself. He's reflected,
and he's waited 8 years to talk about it.
8 years. That's the other thing.
Right.
Like,
and
it's
he
not
got
like
caught,
overnight.
and he's admitting to it, and he's
What else
worked on
can he
himself
do?
and tried to be a better person. I'm not
the
saying
statement
don't
he put
forgive
out.
What else do you ladies want? God
I'm
damn.
not saying that. I'm not saying don't forgive him. I'm just saying, like, if he had never gotten caught, would he still be doing it? Would it have escalated something else? I don't know. We don't know. That's just
so he gets into talking about that, about how. Well, we'll keep playing the clips.
Okay.
Can't confront this thing on a global level because I'm not a globe. I'm one guy, and trying to live that way was what got me in trouble in the first place, and the damage is done, and I can't fix that. But what I can do is be a good man to my friends, on a one-to-one. I can shake one hand at a time. I can be a good father, and I can take care of myself. I can constantly try to revise what I think is right and wrong, not depend on it, but just keep asking myself, because I thought I was a good guy, and a lot of moments where I wasn't. And I have to go back and go, that wasn't okay. And try to make amends when I get an opportunity. And it was really confusing to do all that. And then you can cut it out if you don't want it said on the air, but you told me about this program. You told me about SLAA and about a 12-step approach to what I was suffering from.
And that's to me why, like, what he's saying there is to me why he wasn't playing the victim, where he's like, that I did all these things. There's nothing I can do about that now other than not do it anymore and try and be a good person from here on out. There's nothing else I can do. And Theo introduced him to SLAA. They talk about how Louis was like, I didn't realize that was like a group. Like, I know there's Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't realize there was like something you could go to where they actually like talk about this stuff and try to help you. He didn't realize he was a sex addict, that was a thing, which guys of that generation wouldn't that wasn't talked about ever really until somewhat recently in society. And to that point, like he's talking about this now, 8 years later. He didn't put out a statement in 2017 saying, I'm checking into rehab. I'm a sex addict. You know, it wasn't like Tiger Woods where he cheated on his wife a bunch and was like, I think I'm a sex addict. This was like a real thing that privately Theo talked about him too. And he even says there, like, you can cut it out if you don't want people to know that you're in that group, whatever. So to me, it's not really playing the victim. It's just being honest about what happened, I think.
Another side note to this whole thing, no civil cases were ever brought against Louis C.K., which is interesting to me because, like, you know, like, there was real harm and damage done to reputation.
The things that were interesting to me were both the one instance where the girl was like, oh, no. And he was like, oh, Jesus. Like, he said he, like, walked away, like, I'm sorry, and walked away embarrassed. And Jen Kirkman talking to Chris Hardwick, where she was like, people kind of blew this up in a way that I wasn't expecting when I told the story. Like, and Sarah Silverman also saying, like, I thought it was funny. Like, I liked it. So there are these other instances where it's like, I do think there's a gray area, and I get people being weird. It's a weird thing to me. Like, it's definitely a creepy, weird thing, if you want to call it that. But I also get where there's gray area and where it's not necessarily as black and white as a predator and a victim, you know?
But his career has sat in the principal's office for 8 years, you know? Like, so he has paid penalty for this. So, you know.
Does Electra disagree with us? I'm curious.
As far as what?
Or what we're saying.
As far as that his career shouldn't have been canceled because of it?
No, the conversation we're having now, because you were saying, like, oh, he's playing a victim, and I just made the point as to why I didn't think that necessarily.
I'm sorry, I was reading chat. I'm so sorry.
She's honest, though. She didn't come up. I would have come up with some bullshit.
Electra, here's a note for the future. Talk all you want. Don't pipe up and get mad at me and then not listen when I make a point.
I wasn't mad at you. I wasn't mad. I'm sorry.
I know.
She has people to beat up in chat, Mike. Come on.
You can't go, oh, he's playing the victim. And then me and Casey put on a performance defending this. And you're like, what? I wasn't listening.
I suck.
The ladies make a stance, Mike, and then they don't even watch.
But, you know, this is what they do. This is what they did to provoke Louis. All those years ago.
Electra, I'm getting behind this bush. I'm doing whatever I want. All right, this next one's called Reputation.
Which, like, he had to think a lot about how to handle that. And like I said, I think he did a pretty good job.
And I saw everything really differently. And I saw that everything that had happened with me was because of me. And by the way, that's great news because that means you could do something about it.
Right.
And that everyone else is doing what they have to do. And so I had to start, like, being a man about it. And I can't, like, prove that to the world. And I can't, like, do, you know, a big gesture. I can just do it in my private life. I can talk to you about it. People can see this, whatever. You know, I have mixed feelings about it. It scares the shit out of me to talk about it.
Yeah.
But and that had its own thing.
Yeah,
like,
and it makes me wonder, like, I wonder if he told Rogan, I don't want to talk. Because Rogan would be a guy that would bring it up. Whether or not, you know, I think he's on, like, Louis' shot, but I could see Rogan bringing that up, or Andrew Schultz for sure. So I wonder if Louis said, like, I really don't want to talk about this stuff. And it's interesting that he was honest. He's like, it scares the shit out of me to talk about this. And this is, again, where I'm like, I don't think it's a guy playing the victim because he's saying, like, I can do something to change. And the other thing is, the other reason I thought when I had a similar reaction to Electra, where I was like, oh, people are going to think this. That is how Louis talks. He gets very, when he's talking very seriously, he's like, you know, I thought, he talks about this way on the president's podcast about fucking, you know, Thomas Jefferson. Like, it is how he talks when he's being serious. He gets very, you know, I had this interesting thought like this. Like, it is oddly how he talks. You wouldn't know that just from his stand-up. But, like, in interviews like this, when he's getting serious, that's kind of how he always is.
Kept thinking,
he's not making any jokes at all.
No.
Funny at all, guys.
No, that's
so,
true.
Electra, let me ask you one quick thing. Wouldn't you like every person that did something terrible to another person to have this level of personal responsibility?
Yes, I take it back. He's not acting like a victim.
She's not even listening.
He is accepting.
Right?
He is accepting responsibility for what he did.
Good. We
just a
bullied,
one-off
we
his
bullied a
statement.
woman into having the right opinion. Nice
No,
job.
but
did it,
I'm
Mike.
just thinking
High
back.
five, Mike.
I'm just thinking back to I was flashed. Okay, I was on a hike, and there was a naked man with a trench coat on, and he just flashed me
I'm sorry,
on
that's
this
not funny.
trail. Okay, it was super
Right.
weird,
trench
and I'm
coat.
just going back and thinking like, it still like freaked me out and affected me. And if he'd have asked consent and just did it, either way, it's like it does. It's just awkward and weird, and it affects you in a way
Well,
that you don't
get
even
that
know at
guy
the
on the
time.
podcast. I'll put on a funny Southern accent, and we'll talk it out. I'll get him to admit some things.
The flasher.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't keep in touch with him, Mike.
All right. I'm sorry.
He's on a podcast somewhere right now, like 8 years ago.
No, and he'd been flashing like a bunch of people on the trail, and
Fix this. I have to fix this reputation. I have to go back to where people have at least a neutral feeling about me. And I realized I just can't. I just can't. And also for some people, the kind of people I probably would want to know, it's happening.
It's happening.
Yeah. So
The culture is the next one.
this too is where this goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago. I think it was recorded before any of the stuff happening now, which is even crazier. But this is what Louis watched like while he was on the sidelines. It did get much crazier from there. So he watched, like the things that happened in 2020 and all that from the sidelines, not talking about it or anything, which is also very interesting.
So I'm so lucky what happened to me because of what I was ejected out of. And also the culture, since this happened with me in 2017, the world has gone completely insane. And I've just been watching. Like, I haven't had to comment about it. I haven't had to pick a side.
Yeah.
I've just been sitting back going like, wow, you guys are, like I'm on the bottom of the sea, but I look up and I see, like there's still a full-on fucking battleship royale up there. And once in a while I see a body, like a blue body float down, and I'm like, hey, man, I remember you. Yeah. And he's like, hey. And we're all collecting, and there's more people down here now than there was up there. And it's quiet down here.
Oh.
And there's fish and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the last one, right?
There's one more. You gave me a timestamp, but no, I don't. I love the work.
Oh yeah,
is what I call it.
Casey scolds me. This
did not.
is like what my mother does. Where just for no reason he messages me. I label the timestamps just so Casey will say a word and maybe it'll jog my memory if it needs a setup. And Casey just goes, "Yeah, the last timestamp didn't have a label, but don't worry, I'll have it." Why even
and I
tell
do.
me that? just to reprimand me.
Well, so you could go, oh, that's that cringe. So it reminds you, because you have a lot of points, Mike, and I want to make sure you get
All right, well, let's hear it. I don't know what it is because I'm stupid. So let's hear it.
Things that aren't in the way that's, and that's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
And at this point, to me, I just want to I just want to live, and I want to, I haven't talked about this the way I'm talking about it to you.
And we can take it out if you want, Louis.
It's scary.
No
We'll
issues.
talk about it after.
Okay.
But there's so many times where I just want to come out and tell people, like, I'm fucking sorry. I'm really sorry. I hurt people. And
There you go.
I've felt like in the way that it was so hard to take all of that at once, that much anger at once. It's like, I just don't have a sorry that covers it. And I don't have only one feeling. Sorry is not the only feeling I have. And so I don't want to say something, and I'm scared of the way that anything I say can be used by other people. There's all kind of fears that come up, and I'm very raw in that space.
Yeah.
But that's all because I'm making these choices to stay in this, and it's because I love the work and I want to share it. So I guess I really wish there was I could have a simple kind of watershed where I can say just yes to everything that happened, and I'm sorry. I really am. And I'm just trying to do better, and I don't think I can prove that to everybody because it's a private thing. It's a one-to-one man thing. It's not a famous guy act.
Right.
But I got work that I want to share with people.
Yeah.
I have work that I think is worthy. And there I'm like, if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's always okay with me. When I'm on stage and I'm talking and people aren't accepting it, like, oh, that's okay. That's
fine. That's fair.
Fair enough, man. And nobody owes me nothing. I'm trying. We'll see what happens.
To me, that was the most interesting apology ever. Because no one was demanding it anymore. It stopped. Like, there was no pressure for him to do this. You even hear him discussing with Theo, where he's like, I don't even know if I want. Theo offers to like cut it out, which I'm glad they released it because I think this was very well done. But hearing him say like, I am sorry, and by the way, sorry isn't the only feeling I have, which might mean kind of what we were saying before, where he would there are arguments he would make, but I think he's very smart. Where he's like, him saying what I said to Electra earlier, that doesn't do him any good. Because then people are like, oh, see, he's not really sorry. You know what I mean? People dissect that 10 million different ways. Like if you try to defend yourself at all, it's like, oh, he's not really sorry or he doesn't understand, whatever. And so he understands that it's a delicate thing. And he's like, I'm sorry. That's not the only feeling that I have about this. But I'm working on it, which I think is very interesting. I'm glad that he did that. And I think it's the type of thing. I'm sure I haven't seen a lot of reaction to it yet. I tweeted out a clip yesterday. But I didn't see a ton of people talking about this. I'll be curious what the reaction is because I think we live in a culture now, like we just talked about a little while ago, where people rush to either say, oh, fuck him, he's lying, or Louis, you never did anything wrong. What are you apologizing for, you pussy? Like, I worry that when stuff like this happens, those will be the two reactions, whereas we should like look at that and go, that's very interesting. Not even necessarily that you agree or disagree with it or anything. Just take it for what it is, as interesting, and consume it and learn from it in whatever way your mind works it out. But I thought it was great. I thought it was very interesting, and I recommend you go listen to it, no matter what your perspective is on Louis. I think whether you hate him or you loved him or whatever, I think it's worth a listen.
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me, I did it. Kragers did it.